Hi everyone, how's it going? Today I'm going to be teaching you your first tutorial in Python. And what we're going to cover is the topic of variables. Variables are one of the fundamental building blocks of Python. You're going to encounter them pretty much in almost every single line of Python that you write. Pretty much, not all of them. And we're going to be explaining it and going a little bit deeper into that today. Python is obviously one of the most powerful programming languages you can learn nowadays, and it powers a whole host of different things, from websites to machine learning and AI, and a ton of cool stuff. So if you're interested in more projects, please check out some of the other videos in my channel. But for this tutorial, we're going to make it practical. And if you're on your laptop, if you're on your phone, I want you to follow along with me. And I'm going to be teaching you variables step by step as a concept. Variables are basically storage units in the head of a robot or in the head of the computer or phone that you're working on. And in Python, it's where you store things. It's storing things for later. It's like putting your nuts away for when you're hibernating, if that's an analogy that can be used here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get hands-on with variables. And the way we do that is we're going to go to colab.research.google.com, or you can Google Colab. So if I go here and I create a new notebook, this is basically the equivalent of Google Docs, but for Python code. So look, let me make this a little bit bigger for you here. And I'm going to write Python tutorial for absolute beginners. And I'm going to put number 1, variables. Cool. So there we go. And I'm going to start off with, just like in Twitter, a hashtag. This is how we do comments. And I'm going to say variables. So what is a variable? A variable is a container in the storage unit of this computer. So what I can do is, let's say that I pretend to be younger or older than I actually am. Let's say that my age is 30. Okay, heading towards there. And so a variable you can define as whatever you want here. I can say age. I can say my age. You can basically name this almost whatever you want. And what it does is when I run this, it assigns this unit of storage with this value. And I can make this a number. I can make this a different type. But let's just start off here. And I say age is 30. So now what I can do is it's run this code because I've clicked this run button, but I can't actually see anything. So what I can use is this print function. So I can write print and I paste this age part, and print exposes the value of what's in this container. I'm saying, hey, computer, show me what is stored into here after you've assigned the number 30. So if I run this, now it prints it. If I run 31, it prints it out. And so that's what a variable is and how you can start working with it. Now, these variables, as you can see, I can put a number here, but I can also write something in quote marks. And the quote marks are strings. So strings, not like a piece of string, but a string is a sequence of characters. So here I can do a characters like a letter. So THRIRTY. And it's basically the difference between text and other types. So here I might say the type is string. And if I print it, it's like this. If I do age, and what you can age number, I can do 30. And if I copy and paste this here and print this out, you're going to get 30 is text and 30 is a number. So that's our starting point here. One way that you can actually see what the type is underneath is actually by writing the word type. So type is actually a function. A function is basically a unit of code that lets us run stuff. And so if I print type, what it's going to do is it's going to print what the type is here. So here I should expect string. And for here, you can expect the type to be a number. But if we're more specific, this type of number is called an integer or an int. And what this means is that it doesn't have a decimal place. So if I run this, I'm getting, hey, this is a class, this is of a type string. So str is string. So it finds that age is a string type. And here, if we print this age number, it finds that this is an integer type. Cool. So that's variables and variables and types. And let me show you a couple other ones. So if I do is old, unfortunately, maybe we put true. So this is a type which is called a Boolean or bool. So I'm going to put a lot more of these print statements just to make it super clear that I have age here, then I have age number. And let me copy paste this and also put the is old. So if I run this here at the bottom, I get true because it says true here. And I get that the type is bool. So that's how you can check. And if I do age number float or decimals, let's call it, what I can do is 30.1. And the type here is float. And what float means is that it has decimals in it. So here we have 0.1. So if I go and I copy this again, and I print age number decimal, what you'll see is it says float. Now these aren't the only types. Let me also show you a couple more. But these are all of the basic types. So already you can start to do some cool stuff here. You can start to define text. You can start to define numbers. As you can see here, you can start to define true or falses, and you can use it for a bunch of different things. But let's go a little bit more. I'm just going to create a new code block here. And let's get into more complex variables. And so what I can start to do is define, for example, a age dictionary. And I'll show you in a second what a dictionary is. But if I have, I think you've probably seen this before. I can actually do an underscore instead of a space. And it's a way that I can put all of this into one variable. If I had a space here, it'd start complaining, as you can see here, because it thinks it's two different things. So this is how we say, hey, this name is one thing. And what I can start doing is I can use curly braces, like you can see here, and I can just start defining different values. So I might say my age, and I put in quote marks here, is 30, and my name is Tom. So this is how you can start defining different variables that you want to sit in a single unit. Like, let's say that this is my ID or something like that. You can say, okay, I want one unit that contains all of my values that identify me individually. So I might say here, personal ID. So this is called a dictionary. And now if I print this and I print the type, you're going to see that it says the age is 30, the name is Tom, and the class or the type is dictionary. So this is how you can tell. Another way that you can define it is, as you've seen here, if I do personal ID and then I do underscore array or list, you can also put square brackets instead of these curly. And I can say, for example, 30, comma, Tom. And so this is a way that I can put a list of the different values. But one of the limitations that you can see here is that I might not know what, unless I already know what these values are, there's no label that goes alongside it. So if I copy and print these here, I get my personal ID list, and here I get 30 and Tom, and I get that the type is list. So this is type is list. And one last one that I'll show you is called a tuple. It's a funny name, but if I write here a different version of writing this ID, we've done all types of braces. We've done curly braces, we've done square brackets. Now we're gonna do the typical brackets here. And I can write 30 and Tom. and this is a type called a tuple. This is very similar to this list type. The only difference is really under the hood, and we can explain it in a few other, in a more advanced tutorial. But it's a different way that you can similarly access this type of information like a list. So if I, instead of doing personal ID list, here I write tuple. And if you do Command D in Google Colab, that's how you select the same thing several times, like that. And if I run this, it'll say 30, Tom, and the class is tuple. So there you go. That's how you define these different variables. But you might say, hey, Nick, how do I actually access this specific value, right? Here we have those specific values. And these are ways that I can start to collect more units of information in one piece or in one unit. But how do I actually access like the 30 here? So for dictionaries, which is this type, you can think of it like a dictionary, right? You look up a word and you get a value, right? Like you get the definition. So if I, for example, copy this line, I can do square braces. And what I can do is I can say, hey, dictionary, I want you to give me the age value. So if I run this, here you get 30, which is the value of age in this dictionary. The thing with the list and the tuples is that there is no label. You can't just say age, because if I go and I put this here and run it, it'll give me an error. And that's because there is no label to say age. So instead, how you access values here is that you can put an index. So you say, I want the first element. Note in Python and a lot of programming languages, the first element is actually 0. It's the 0th index. Instead of the first element is the 0 element to be the first one. So if I run this, here I'll get 30, right? Which was the first element. If I write a 1 here, I'll get Tom because that was the second value. And the 0th element was the first. The second value is the number 1. A little bit confusing, but just subtract 1 to whatever you think it should be logically. And then here, for the tuple, similarly, if you write a 0 here, you can get the 30 value. And if I do a 1, I should get Tom, as you can see here. So there you go. That's pretty much the basics of variables. We've explored all of the basic ones. We've explored the types here. And we've also explored more complex ones. And now, as a last resort, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something very simple, which is variable naming conventions. So what can I actually use? I said that you can kind of change this to whatever you want. I can say ages, and it still runs. You can change this name to whatever you want. It's a container in the head of the computer. But there are some rules because it can start to get confusing. So I can say age is 30, and I can print this out. But if I write a number, it has to start with a letter. So if I write a number here, it'll fail because it thinks that I'm writing numbers that I might be adding, etc. But instead, if I write a number here, it'll work. So you can't start with numbers. The next thing is that you can't have spaces. So you can't write a age is 30 because that's going to fail. So instead, we use the underscore, as you can see here. And the other thing is that you can't use names of common functions. So in Python, there's something called a class. And as you see here, it's highlighted differently. That's a bigger data structure. But if I write class is millennials and I run this, it'll fail because this is a function. So I have to call it something else. So class of people. So there we go. It runs. Now, in terms of more normal conventions, other things that you can also follow is that this is called snake case. This is what is preferred in Python, which is just like a snake, you have like these underscores, and you can say nice job or nice way to do it. Then you have camel case, which you write like this, camel case, which is instead of doing this underscore, you just put a capital letter with every new word that you do, and it's readable. But in Python, we do snake case. So it's better to do snake case. And then lastly, you can do screaming snake case, or I think there's a different way of saying this. And you can, here we can say, hey, why are you shouting? So it can be a little bit aggressive if you do this one. So snake case is the most common one. And if I print this, it'll say nice way to do it. Cool. Hopefully that was helpful. In this first Python tutorial for absolute beginners, we've covered variables. We've covered all the different types. So from string types to integer types to float types to Boolean types, how to print them out, how to check what type it is. We've gone here to more complex variables that store multiple units of information with dictionaries, with lists, with tuples, and how to access those individual elements. And then here we've gone over variable naming conventions and how you shouldn't start them, and maybe some of the conventions here that typically you find in Python. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you want to see the second video, please comment below as to what type of topic you might want to see for it. I'm really interested in trying to find topics that will be of value to you in your Python learning journey. And if you did find this helpful, subscribe for future videos, and please drop a comment letting me know what you'd like to see next. Thanks a lot, and have a good rest of the day.